about the General Sherman tree?
Big.
Big, yeah. Really large. Some people tell me they heard it was the oldest tree. Some people told me they heard it was the largest living thing on the planet, and also the tallest tree. Well, with the General Sherman, it is 379 feet tall. Or sorry, 275 feet tall. With this tree, though, the tallest tree is Hyperion, which is 800 feet tall at 379.1 feet. 100 feet taller than the General Sherman. Now, that tree, though, is much, much skinnier. Therefore, it does not have as much mass. This tree is 52,000 cubic feet in volume, 1,385 tons, and that's only counting in the trunk, not any of the branches of the General Sherman. Now, largest branch right above our heads is 6.5 feet in diameter and 140 feet in length. Just a branch. That branch, though, is larger than any mature tree east of the Mississippi River. Again, just a branch. Great example, 2006, this branch over here fell down. That was a branch. Not another tree, just a branch. Now, with the Sherman, with its great volume, all of that comes just from that trunk. Now, with the trunk, going at the tree, 275 feet tall, 36.5 feet in diameter at base, 103 feet in circumference all the way around. Now, that 36.5 feet, basically, if you parked one of our big shuttle buses in front of it, from the other side, all you can see is the front and rear bumper. 3 lanes of a highway across. It is not even the widest sequoia. The widest sequoia is the bull tree. It is 50 feet in diameter and 113 feet in circumference. Now, that is not even the widest tree. The widest tree is a Montezuma cypress down in Oaxaca, Mexico, that is 115 feet in circumference. So both of those are wider at the base than the Sherman, but that Montezuma cypress is only about 50 feet tall, so it's much, much smaller. And the bull tree tapers much faster. So it gets skinnier as it climbs up the trunk, so therefore it has less volume. Now, with the Sherman, people originally thought it was the largest organism. In reality, it's number 3. The largest organism is up for debate. It's either a fungus up in Oregon that is 13.9 square miles, or it is a grove of quaking aspens in central Utah that is 6.9 square miles. Now, some people argue, well, the fungus is dead in certain parts, regenerated, we don't know how far down it goes. Other people say, well, that grove of quaking aspens is actually cut in half, and half of this is this organism, half is that organism. No matter what, Sherman's number 3, but is the single largest tree by stem. So single stem, Sherman's number 1. Organism number 3. Now, with this tree's age, we thought, okay, originally we got here, it must be 10,000 years old. And we thought it was 5,000 years old. Then it was 3,000. Now today we say it's 2,200 years old. If you think about it, it's actually gotten younger over the years. Now, to find out its age, we've simply gotten better at taking measurements. Now, you realize I just said 2,200. I didn't say 2,168. Well, we cannot know the exact age of this tree. To find the age of a living tree, what you do is take a core sample. Basically, you slide the pipe to the tree, pull it out, count those rings, and push it back in. That works all well and good for trees that are, 2-3 feet in diameter. Not so good for a tree that's 36.5 feet in diameter. For this tree, if we wanted to core sample it, we'd have to have a stick that's about 18 feet long. They do not make coring tools 18 feet long. Instead of being the size of a nice little quarter, it'd be the size of a melon. Now, we really don't feel like we're moving an 18-foot-long melon from this tree, so we took a core sample from the outside, about 2 feet, and we compared trees of similar size and conditions and came up with 2,200. Now, we might be off by as much as 50 to 100 years, but we'd rather be off by just a tinge than actually cause any damage to the General Sherman tree. Now, people still say 2,200. Well, that's got to be one of the older trees on the planet, right? Not even close. The oldest tree is 4,600 years old, over twice the age of General Sherman. Now, folks say, okay, well, it's got to be the same size, right? Similar size, right? No. It is a bristlecone pine that's about 3 to 4 feet in diameter and maybe about 40 feet tall top. It lives above 9,000 feet north of Death Valley in the White Mountains. It has a very, very small bone unit.
Because I do not
They can live
know
upwards of
anything to this
5,000 years.
Papi, deja que esté con su papá.
Most sequoias will live more
He doesn't want to move
3,500.
because he's
Pretty good
screaming.
old age for a giant sequoia to make it to. Now, starting with its age, if you could only imagine being here 2,200 years ago, we'd be in the middle of a fire. Now when I say fire, most people say, whoa, whoa, put the brakes on, stop, time out. A fire is a bad thing. How could a tree come to life in a fire? Well, what we found was that our natural fire cycle in this area is every 10 to 15 years, in which a fire will occur. Now those fires occur through lightning strikes. So in the Sierra, we have a very high amount of lightning strikes from dry lightning. Now that's a thunderstorm that has no moisture, so it produces lightning strikes without rain. So let's say a sugar pine like this big old tree with a fork in it gets struck by lightning. It falls down and it starts a ground fire. That ground fire then begins to accumulate fuel and burn its way throughout the forest. So the first thing that burns is the duff layer, all the pine needles and sticks that you see on top of the soil. That increases the temperature of the fire, and it starts taking out dead down logs. Increases more, and starts going after the smaller trees. So the fir trees, the sugar pines, younger sequoias that don't have fire protection are consumed. Eventually that fire makes its way up to the base of the sequoia like the Sherman. Now, the bark, the nice red color you see in that bark is from tannin, or tannic acid. Acts as a natural insecticide, keeps all the insects and fungus from being able to attack these trees, allowing them to live several thousand years without any trouble from termites. The bark is anywhere from 1 to 2 feet thick at the base, sometimes upwards of 3 feet thick. Now, the fire comes along and hits that base.
But that's candy.
The fire can last from several minutes to several hours. It all depends on how much dead down fuel is at the base of that tree. When it burns itself out, it doesn't hold a flame. Feel anything? Think of insulation in a house. As fire burns on the outside, heat is not being conducted to the inside. Acts as little air pockets inside, restricting the flow of that heat. Now, to that end, natural fire cycle, 10 to 15 years. A tree of the age of the Sherman, 2,200, has seen over 120 to 150 fires in the course of its lifetime so far. But it's still here. You will notice that it is a black mark now. We call this a fire scar. Every mature sequoia has fire scars. It's a natural process, and it's something you cannot escape from. Now, bark's still here. Trees are still here. However, during that fire, heat will rise up the tree and start to bake those cones up in the top of the branches. Now, when most folks come to the park, they say, yeah, you know what, we saw some sequoia cones. I say, yeah.